Welcome to Into the Yes. I'm Marisa Fay, a functional nutritionist and holistic wellness practitioner.
And I'm Jen Nickel, a movement witch and intuitive Reiki master.
You are in the right place if you're ready to question society's wellness standards and prepared to be inspired to make changes that are right for you.
Join us as we get into the yes.
Let's go. All right, welcome to a very special episode of Into the Yes. I am Marisa Fay, and I am joined by my friend, my colleague, I was going to say my love.
Have we taken it to the next
Have we
level?
gone there?
Wow.
But Jen Nickel is here.
Hello.
As she always is. Fun fact, actually, about our friendship, y'all. We've never met in person.
What?
I know. I think that's fascinating.
It's like Love is Blind.
We are doing Love is Blind. That is what it is. Yes.
Right.
For sure.
Oh, you aren't what I expected.
No. I know, right? Like, what if in person you're like, ooh, you're shorter than I thought you would be?
Well, that's the question. Is love blind?
Is love blind? Maybe we'll find out.
Sometimes it depends. Yes. Love is blind, but it depends.
Totally. Agreed. So we want to talk all about gratitude. And as a note on this, we're doing the expected thing, right? Talking about gratitude around
Thanksgiving.
Yes. Like everyone's recording this podcast episode, right?
I dare all listeners to see how many podcasts they can find on gratitude around this time of year.
I love that. And then
it's like a word search.
And whoever finds the most will get a special prize.
Get a gold star.
Yes. But, we were just talking about this, that both of us talk about gratitude in our work in all kinds of different ways all year round. Yeah. So we're kind of riffing on this, on the coattails of everyone else in this upcoming holiday. And at the same time, we just out the gate want to remind you, gratitude is seasonless.
It is. But like this time of year is a good reminder. It's a good reminder to take note of like how powerful it is. So we'll use that. We'll use that cue.
Totally.
The seasonal cue.
And I also want to give the additional caveat. We are those people, right? Where I'm just going to say Thanksgiving is certainly a tradition that is built on some horrific and horrible things that have happened. And one of the things that I think can be beautiful is both educating yourself and honoring that, and also what good can come out of this, moment where we are trying to celebrate something. So,
right.
That is where we orient to this, and,
just a
share
recognition.
A lot. Yes, exactly. And I think that is really important because a lot of people don't recognize that and also don't educate themselves. And, it's that idea that like we're on borrowed land, right? Still to this day. And so just mad respect to that.
Right. Okay, never mind.
We were going to go on a tangent there, but we'll focus it back in.
Change it for another.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Another episode. Okay. So Jen, what does gratitude mean to you?
Oh God. Define it. Gratitude is to me, it's an energy and an emotion. Well, it's first an energy. That I find to be extremely expansive. Mm-hmm. And then, and then there's an emotion that comes with it. And then there's a sensation in the body that happens with it. And I'm saying, and then this all kind of is simultaneous.
Right. I feel like, basically what I think you're saying is like, when you feel it.
Yeah. But you have to, it's right there. It's literally right there. You just have to tap into it. You can tap into it instantaneously. If you know how.
If you know how, yeah. And just, required reading leading into this episode is definitely the last couple of episodes where we've talked about energy. So I just want to refer people back to that as well. But it is really, for us, energy it just is, right? It's just a part of all of us. And I do think gratitude is one of the easiest energies to tap into.
I think so too. And I think it's the the one energy that really has the power to shift from one state of being to another.
Okay, you are not incorrect about that. So I'm going to get a little sciencey on us just for a moment. But I've studied positive psychology, and I actually, way back when, it seems like in a former life, actually worked with a positive psychologist to develop a whole curriculum about how to build resilience. And one of the things I learned from her, this like brilliant researcher, was the power, the literal power of gratitude that we actually have measured. So it for sure is exactly what you said, Jen. It is a fantastic tool to go from one state to another very, very quickly. And it is highly effective, and it is something you can train your brain to look for. So if you are a person who kind of is in a negative Nancy phase of life, or tends to be kind of down on themselves, or is having a lot of stress, like you name a challenging emotion or feeling or phase of life you're in, you actually can use a simple gratitude practice to start to recalibrate your brain, so you actually start to notice the great things that are happening, right? And it doesn't discount or discredit shit that's happening, right?
Right.
It just helps your brain to recognize that, hey, there's also good things happening.
Right. And I think that's important. I think that practicing that outside of being in the shit is what allows you to access it when you're in the shit. But some of us are in the shit a lot of the time. It's just the way of the life that's being led. And if you're in that space where it feels hopeless, then I think there's some simple practices that can help start to exercise the gratitude muscle.
Oh, great. Let me guess what one of the simple practices
What would it
is.
be? What could it possibly be?
What could it possibly be? And if you've heard maybe 2 of our episodes, you've probably heard this very simple practice.
It's taking a breath.
Yeah.
It's so silly. I feel almost silly saying it, but it's so true, right? And so you can take a breath and then use that to be grateful for. I'm grateful that I inhaled. I am grateful that I exhaled and exhale.
And I will just edit that and say it's an intentional breath, right? Like,
right.
We're always taking a breath, but it's an intentional breath. It's a mindful breath, right? Where you're noticing.
Well, that's what makes it do something else.
Yeah.
That's what gives it form. Right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just your body breathing.
Absolutely. And I will say, when it comes to these simple gratitude practices, I'm going to build on that, which is, your brain, your body, when it comes to experiencing an emotion like gratitude or being in a state like gratitude, it actually doesn't know the difference between like the gratitude you feel for your very best friend who you love and adore and the gratitude you feel for chocolate. It really doesn't know the difference.
It doesn't quantify.
No, exactly. So it's going to have benefit irregardless, right? You could be grateful for the silliest, oddest thing. And
like your baby toenail.
Yeah, you could be grateful for that. I'm not. Mine is a little weird. It kind of like points straight up. So, but you could be. You could have a fantastic baby toenail.
Or even it doesn't have to be fantastic for you to be grateful for it.
That's true. You could just be grateful that you have a baby toenail.
Right. Or that you don't have one.
Yeah.
Because it's not in the way now. No. I've gone way off topic. All right, let's reel it in, Marissa. You were talking scientific and I went third grade child, distract.
That's right. Okay. So I want to actually tell people this is a more complex exercise, but this is one that there are research studies around. And I want to just say, research is not the be all end all, right? Like there are issues with who funds it, who studies it, is it biased, is it not? But I also think it's kind of cool to know that like there are things that we know intuitively are helpful, and we also somehow have measured it. I think that's really neat. So there's a practice called 3 good things. And it literally is every day. You could do it at the beginning of the day, the middle, the end. It doesn't freaking matter. Do it anytime you want to. And it is literally, you write down 3 good things that have happened in the last 24 hours or in that day, kind of depending when you do it, right? And here's the key. So you write down the good thing, and then you answer, why did this happen? How did this happen? Right? One of those questions. So for example, I am grateful for the food I meal prepped yesterday. How did this happen? I took the time, I set aside time so that I could meal prep, right? So you're reinforcing, and in a way, you're giving yourself a gold star. And that is incredibly helpful for, again, continuing to prime your brain for these positive things, but also because so many of us have negative self-talk. I mean, we have millions of thoughts a day, and we probably only really realize a small fraction of those that we're having. And, it is the most powerful recording in the world, the most persuasive recording in the world, your self-talk. And by taking this intentional time and, in some cases taking credit, right?
Yeah.
Or even just kind of reinforcing to your mind, like, this happened because of a reason, right? It actually helps to ground us a bit.
I
And
mean, I
so,
love that practice. I think that's a beautiful practice. I think what I would ask is like, what if you are in one of those places where you're in a really low state and you're like, I don't think there were three things today. Like, I wonder, how do you get to that?
I mean, the way to get the most benefit from it is to consistently. So again, if you want to talk about the research, it's 3 good things, 6 weeks in a row, every day. And
Yeah.
we actually see hugely measured changes, right? But I still think there benefit from one thing, right? So if you can name one thing you're grateful for, and by the way, I work with women sometimes at their lowest low, their absolute low. Their health is falling apart. Nobody has been able to help them. I am their last hope, last chance, they think, right? And this is something that I like to challenge even those people to do, right? Because I always reflect back to them, like, there are things to be grateful for, even when it comes to your health and your body, right? So
Right.
my point is, there's always something. And
There
it
is
could,
always something. So I think like, you know, even if you had a script for the first, like if you had a list of three things that if your mind has a hard time going there and you wanted to say, I'm grateful that my heart is beating,
totally.
you know?
Or, or something you're grateful for, even that happened in the past, I think also, or that will happen in the future, right? Like, again, there is no parameters. Keep it super simple if you need to, kind of like the single breath, right? If you need to keep it super simple, look around you. Is there something you're grateful for around you, right? Like for me, Luna, my cat, she's like always on the list.
That's one that you can always go to. Yeah, so you have a touch point. So you use Luna because if you sometimes even if we're not in a dark space or a lower energy space, our brains just don't feel creative or aren't in that space to like come up with something. So when you have a go-to, I think that helps grow it helps grow the gratitude. Because I feel like gratitude is very expansive. And when you connect with one thing, it'll grow. It'll grow to another thing. And, even just conversationally with another person, if you mention what you're grateful for, or if they mention to you what they're grateful for, it'll expand to you. You'll start to feel like, oh, I'm grateful for that too. Or I feel that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's contagious in the
Yes.
best possible way. And that's also why I just want to encourage everyone that, like, don't let gratitude just happen this month, right? Like, have conversations with people who matter to you about gratitude. Sometimes I, with my boyfriend, I will literally send a text and be like, what are you grateful for? Right. Or he'll say to me, I'm feeling so grateful. And I'll be like, for what? Like, share what the experience of gratitude is, share what's good that's happening, share, or not even just what's happening or what you're noticing, right? Like, I feel like sometimes we are so much more prepared and ready to have conversations about the hard stuff that's happening sometimes, or the bad stuff that's happening. And I think it's really useful to have more conversations about this side of things too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you're saying that, it's making me think, like, when's the last time I've said it with my kids? We
Mhm.
used to do this practice at the dinner table. Three things today, three great things today. They'd roll their eyes, Mom, you know, and then one person would say it, and then the other one would want to say one, and the other one would want to say one, and it would grow. But now that they're older, right, we're all coming to the table at different times. People are heating things up. They've decided they don't want to eat. And so I'm like, oh, we don't do that. So
Hmm.
now I need to just ask them. You
Yeah.
know, it's easy to not practice this, and yet it's easy to practice it,
Right.
right?
Totally. And I think, your kid's response, like, mom, I feel like that's how a lot of people respond when they, are invited to share these types of things. And I don't know why. Like, why do you think we're so like, I mean, I know adults who are that way. You know what I mean?
Well, if there's pressure on it, or if you, I don't know, as adults, I guess my perspective of it is that you feel like you're supposed to have some big thing to say, but it could just be grateful, or like the thing that I like is humor. Like, what
Hmm.
are you grateful for? Well, I'm grateful, whatever, that you're wearing that shirt today, or whatever. Yeah, you're
I mean,
wearing a
I would say
shirt
I'm
today.
grateful I pooped today.
Yeah,
Like,
like something that makes people like, what?
yeah.
So if we're all around a table together and it comes up, I'll want to try to make someone laugh, which usually they'll just laugh at me, but okay.
But
I'm
that's
grateful for
okay,
that.
right?
Yeah.
That's the whole like laughter is medicine. I really, really believe that.
Yeah. And then you could be like, now we're grateful we're laughing. Woohoo. Like
Right, exactly.
everyone rolls their eyes again.
Yeah. Or, I feel like this could be a fun one. I've done this in groups before where everyone writes down something they're grateful for
Hmm.
and then puts it, in a bowl and someone reads it. And that way, you don't necessarily voice it and everybody can benefit from hearing it. So that also is a fun one,
That
and a good
sounds like a
one to
fun
do,
game.
right? And a good one to do around the dinner table or with friends or something like that. If
Around
you
your
want,
Thanksgiving table, because this
yeah,
is the time of year when we're grateful.
exactly. Yep, it's the only time of year.
Yeah. And our point is, right, this is going to benefit you. So say you are in a moment where you're feeling like we talked about how it can instantaneously shift energy. So if you're somewhat practiced in this, or if you have that one touch point thing, like you have Luna, um, I have any number of things, like whatever pops into my head at the moment, um, that it can help you start to shift out of a negative space. So if you're in a space of like feeling down on yourself or really upset about a situation, you can use this to flip that energy. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm grateful I have the shoes on today. All right. And then that starts it. All right, take a deep breath. And it just starts a moment of touching back in to find a different energy.
Well, and you know what that reminded me of? Your kind of like idea that you can shift the energy and shift yourself. It kind of reminds me of people who actually are most comfortable in their negative Nancy state. And they have spent a lot of life in that negative Nancy state. And I apologize if your name is Nancy. But like it almost seems like there are sometimes people who like would roll their eyes at something like this or be very uncomfortable with something like this because they are so used to being in that negative space. And they probably are the same people who say, I'm just realistic. The guidance is that if you're the person who sits down to have a moment of gratitude and you're like, ugh, I don't want to do it, or this is silly, right? Like, do it anyways.
Just try
Right.
it.
Right. We all need to do things we're uncomfortable with. And that is a very low risk, uncomfortable thing to do.
It is. It doesn't cost anything. It's just a thought.
Yeah. Nobody has to see it or hear it.
At first, it's a thought, and then it has the power to become an energy. When becomes an energy, that's when it can grow.
Mm-hmm.
If you let it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still
Yeah.
on the energy
You are.
podcast.
I want to say, is there anything else you want to say about the energy of gratitude, Jen?
It's an expansive energy.
Mhm.
And I think it's a powerful practice. Not just like what am I grateful for, but in coming home to our bodies. So we do
Mhm.
this at the end of all of the classes that I teach, is we take a moment to thank our body
Mhm.
for showing up. Because if it wasn't for our body, we wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's a beautiful practice, is just remembering to thank our bodies. Even if they're not doing what we want them to do or showing up the way we want them to do, they're still here. They're still doing it. They're still holding you in this space.
Well, and you and I have talked about this, like when there's an immune system challenge happening, right? AKA
Hmm.
you're feeling kind of sick, where we both have this practice of being like, thank you, body, for working hard.
Hmm.
Thank you, body, for learning new things. Thank you for trying to protect me from this, right? Like that to me is the energy of gratitude as well, right?
It absolutely is. In fact, you're the one who taught me that, because this is why I think it's hard sometimes to connect with this ability and this skill, because right when I'm not feeling well, I go into a space, a little tailspin of like, what's wrong with me? Oh my God, what did I do? What blah, blah, and um it stops that spiral right away. Wait a minute. No, my body is doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's responding. Oh, I'm grateful for that. And it's so beautiful. It just helps. It helps in that moment and it helps beyond it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say too that, there are moments where I'm sure both of us, like, we're not perfect in the way, we do something, or we're in a bad mood or a mood where we're not noticing, something we could be grateful for. And there's never a bad moment to choose again, right? You can always choose again.
I
You
love,
can
yeah.
you can observe where you are, right? You can non-judgmentally, right? You don't need to judge it, and you can choose again.
And I love that. I love you saying that, because I talk a lot about this in in meditation, is that you can, right, when your mind wanders away from where you want it to be, you, with the next breath, you just begin again. That's all you have to do.
Mhm.
And it's actually, and here's what I really truly believe, that the practice is not in the fact that you began again. It's in the fact that you recognized that you weren't where you wanted to be. It's in that moment that you grow,
Oh,
because you
for
now
sure.
realize it's your awareness and your connection with yourself. Like, oh, that's not where I wanted my mind to be. So in all of those things, like you just said, like start it over.
Mhm.
Um, it's in that practice of like, oh, I wasn't grateful. Let me try again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the more loving you can be to yourself in those moments, and the more you give yourself permission to not be perfect, right? To accept that sometimes you're not going to do or say or be or recognize the thing that you think is best or right,
Hmm.
and that you can always change course.
Always change course. And I think also it's important to say that if you forget to connect with gratitude, if you forget to like say, oh, I was grateful for this today, I'm grateful for that, that doesn't mean that you are ungrateful. It doesn't mean that you don't recognize all that you have or all that you are. It just means that life is distracting. And that's why um, we talk about things like this. We're in we're drawn to things that give us a pause to reflect, to remember,
Mm.
oh, that's right. I am grateful for all these things. I forgot for a minute. But it doesn't mean that you are an ungrateful person.
Absolutely. And I will say, like, these conversations that we're having, they're just as much for us as you, listener. Like,
Oh, yeah.
this is the reminder we need too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need all the reminders
Right.
all the time.
So, on that note, I am going to put you on the spot, Jen, and ask what's something you are grateful for?
Today, I am actually really grateful for my body today.
Mhm.
It's working hard for me right now.
Yeah.
So I've just been in it.
Yeah,
feeling it and grateful for it. Yeah.
I love
How
that.
about you?
I am grateful for it. It's so funny. Mine's a body thing too. So I messed up my back. I don't know how. I know when-ish. And I have all of these wonderful friends who know a lot about bodies and some parts of bodies that I'm not as familiar with, you being one. I also have a friend who's a physical therapist here, and I texted her yesterday and said, okay, it's not better. I've been doing the homework you gave me. Help. And she squeezed me in today. And I'm super duper grateful for that and for her.
Mm, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So on that note, we're going to wrap up this episode, but first we're going to give you all a heads up. We are going to be taking a couple weeks off in December. I know, so sad that you won't get new episodes the whole month.
Go re-listen to all your favorites.
Yes, and share it with a friend for
Yeah.
crying out loud, right? Like if you listen to something and you're like, that's interesting, that's funny, that helped. Ooh, I'm not sure I like that. Share it with a friend, right? Like spread the love, spread, ways that you can connect to others and help us spread the word about Into the Guess.
And hey, all of you out there listening, I'm really grateful for you. I'm
Oh,
grateful that you're giving your energy and time into this space. Like truly, truly grateful for that.
ditto that.
Yeah.
All right, where can folks find you?
Jen Nichols09 on TikTok and Instagram, or theelementsexperience.com.
Yes, check that out. And then I am at Marisa Faye Wellness on TikTok, on Instagram. And guess what? I created a temporary page on my website because my website was very outdated to have just quick links to all the things people ask me for and about. So you can find that at marisafaye.com and get links to all the handy little things that you might want or need.
Excellent. All right. Everyone have a wonderful whatever it is you're doing. And
Yes,
then go
that.
write your little gratitude thing.
Yeah. And if you want to share your gratitude thing, because I do think there's benefit in sharing,
Share it.
you
It
can share it
grows.
with us too. So if you want to send us a direct message or an email, we love to hear from you. So feel free to reach out and share what you're grateful for. We'd love to hear it.
Yes, we would. All right. That's it for today.
That's it. That's
Peace
all.
out.